Peter, how is Scania approaching autonomous trucking?
I would say that in 4 ways. First of all, customer-centric. We are focusing on autonomy from a customer journey perspective. Second of all, we are focusing on 2 main areas, on-road freights and confined mining. And the third is that we want to be in control of our systems. We do have partnerships in several areas, but we want to stay in control of what we deliver on that customer journey. And fourth is that we do our autonomous solutions on a TRATON level. So we coordinate all our efforts between the brands to be as successful as possible within autonomy.
There's a lot of companies developing autonomous driving technologies for trucks. Recently, the TRATON Group just announced a partnership with Plus. Why Plus?
I would start maybe with not so expected answer to that. I think, first of all, we have a very good cultural fit. We have the same value-based driven companies, and that's essential for us. We are focusing on our values, and so are our Plus. Then we are also in agreement how to address autonomy to the market based on those values. And third of all, of course, their technology. I mean, they are a very good company with a very advanced technology and will take us to the future that we need together.
With the partnership, you mentioned that Scania and TRATON still want to stay in control. Will you continue to develop your own autonomous driving tech internally as well as the partnership that you have with Plus?
Yeah. We will not put all eggs in one basket. We will continue to develop. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later regarding confined mining, where we develop everything ourselves. Of course, with different partnerships as well. But when it comes to on-road solutions, we need to develop ourselves as well to understand the product that we want to create. If we don't understand the product, we will not be a good partner for Plus and anyone else either.
It goes back to the old Google analogy of eat your dog food. Try your product, use your product, understand your product. So I give you a lot of credit there from the development standpoint. You're kind of hinting at that there could be other potential partners. Am I reading that right, that there could potentially be other partners on the line for the TRATON Group and Scania?
There's always possibility for new partnerships, and that doesn't mean that it will be at the same level. I mean, you know, as well as everyone else, that autonomy is a very complex system and you need to have so many partnerships. You can't solve them all yourself. So we will continue to work with partners, and we have a lot of them for different layers in the system, and continue to look into how we can be even better.
On those lines, how long have you been testing Plus's technology? And have you been testing it both in the United States and Sweden, or how long have you been testing it and where have you been testing it?
We've been testing in Sweden and US, but first of all, we've had a quite long relationship with Plus and been in tight dialogue with them for a long time, and been testing now more intense in the near future. So we have good control and understanding of what they are able to do. And now we've intensified that with the partnership. So the testing part is hard to say how long, because we've been working close together in different dialogues and so on. And now we're intensifying that with the deliveries we're doing.
What initially formed the relationship between Scania and Plus? Was there a mutual relationship that allowed you to build that trust to get to the point where you announced a partnership deal, or what started that process?
I think most of things in this industry starts with technology and being geeks of technology. But that's transferred into, as I mentioned before, more value-based driven, and joining around that technology, seeing the same solutions in the same way, and also understanding the mutual relationship between the 2 companies. So technology-based, value-driven.
Value is what you want. Your customers want to unlock value. You want to unlock value for your customers. You want to solve their pain points, their problems, especially with the global driver shortage. It's only accelerating in Japan, for example, with the new law coming into effect April 1st. The United States, we have lots of data around the driver shortage there. TRATON has several brands. You have Scania, you have Navistar. Will the Plus technology be able to scale across a variety of the TRATON brands?
Yeah, that's our intention between TRATON and Plus. We see benefits in creating one solution for all trade brands. Of course, with some diversity between the brands, but still the same foundation. And as I said, new autonomous solutions for all brands in the TRATON Group, and my responsibility to coordinate that we are successful. And we're using the TRATON modular system to do so.
From a technical standpoint, will the integration be done at the group level, or will there be teams that will answer up to you in each individual brand?
each individual brands. The brands are core. We have a customer base, we have a very well integrated product into our customers, and the brands will continue to be our interface towards those customers. We are more enabling autonomy for the brands.
You're going to enable autonomy for the brands. The next step that your customers want and your shareholders want is commercialization. What will that commercialization strategy look like between Scania, TRATON, and Plus?
We talk about driver as a service. Again, customer focus is our center of things. We deliver vehicles today and we're delivering vehicles tomorrow. We will, with the driver as a service, add in the driving in the equations where our customers see so fit. And we integrate that into their operational system. We are not doing the actual operations. We are securing that we enable the drive for the customers in their flows. So we are not looking into going into a transport as a service model for autonomy. It is delivering a solution for and enabling autonomous drive for our customers in their systems.
Your customers will be the ones that will operate the service then, since you are not going into the model that's similar your competitors are going into?
We believe that we have a strong relationship with our customers today, and going head to head with someone that we're working with a solution and understanding the market and pros and cons of how we operate in that way. Why should we enter into their domain when we have a good relation with the customers today, delivering vehicles? Then we add in the driver in that equation to integrate into their TMS system or whatever system they are using. They are the experts of operating and driving goods. We are experts in creating trucks.
You're respecting the customer. As you respect your customer, you have a heritage of building and selling trucks with non-autonomy. Will that business continue to sell non-autonomous trucks as you develop this driver as a service business as well?
I think it's a long, long time until we are fully autonomous. I don't think we will see that in the near future. So we will continue all TRATON brands to deliver vehicles as we do today. And when we, together with the customers, see it fits, we will add in autonomous drive.
From a driver as a service, will that be a per mile fee? Will it be a per hour fee, a per lane fee? How do you see the economics working for the model?
I think that's a little bit too early to answer. I think it's not a one scale to fit everyone. It's actually depending on the situation of the customer and also the situation of operations. I think that the operation of confined mining is different between hub-to-hub solution and when you move even further into people transport and so on, it's a different scale there as well. So I don't think you have one answer to that question, unfortunately, but I think you need to be adaptable into creating solutions that are best for the cause of the customer.
How are your mining customers currently using autonomy? Are they using it in Western Australia because of the labor shortage out there? Are they using it to increase efficiency? How are your mining customers currently using autonomy today?
Autonomy has, in mining industry, autonomy has been happening for quite some time in other segments than ours. And one of the main driver factors is safety, securing that you remove humans from a hazardous environment so you minimize the risk of any accident. Then the customer we work with our solution today is also working with lower impact mining, securing that you do as small impact on the environment as possible, both with how you do mining, but also how you use energy into the mining solutions.
Are there limitations on the types of class of vehicles at a mine that you can develop for autonomous driving technology today?
Not really. We have our special vehicles for mining solutions, and we are developed the solution for those. But of course, that technology can be used elsewhere as well.
Do you view the off-road autonomy market, including mining, as a potential growth market for Scania?
The mining industry for Scania is extremely important, or maybe not extremely, but it is very important. Being an industry that are relying on solutions that are stable and have a good quality, that is a perfect fit for the Scania product. And in adding into autonomy into that will create a very important step for our customers.
Were those systems designed, the technological autonomous drive systems designed in-house for mining, or was there a partner that designed those technologies?
We develop those solutions in-house with our team. Of course, there are partnerships in there as well for different layers of the systems. But for the software stack for drive, it's our in-house developed.
Does any of that stack go over to the on-road stack as well? Is there any overlap, or are there two completely different stacks? One stack for off-road, including mining, and then one stack for on-road driving?
As you know, it's always learnings in between different steps. So it's impossible to say they are separate because they are not. There are knowledge that we transfer when we go fully driverless operations in mines. Of course, that is learnings that we can bring into the stack of on-road and vice versa as well. So there are not any one team is just working on one. It is, of course, a shared knowledge between the different solutions moving forward.
You're always learning as you're developing new technology. You're always learning as you're developing new business models. From the on-road side, you're going to operate driver as a service. How did you pick the initial lanes that you're going to operate the service? Was it customer demand? Was it economics? How are those lanes chosen?
Two things. First of all, as you heard, I mention customers all the time, but I think that is core. We can't do anything that is not creating value for our customers. So that's how we choose it in first. But then, of course, we need to understand the limitation of the technology. We are not driving where it's not able to drive, even if some customer would like us to do so. So it's a balance between what the technology actually can deliver and what the customer needs. So finding that equation in between is core for us.
What will the initial lanes be when you commercialize the service?
That is up to the customer. And of course, in dialogue with us. So we don't want to create a solution saying that we're going to drive between two cities and then ask the customers, do you have goods that we can transport in that? Or do you transport goods in that? But rather, where are customers transporting their goods today from their terminal to their terminal? And then we add in our solution or our driving into their equation and drive where they want us to drive, not creating we don't want to push, we want to have a pull from the customer that they want this solution in this way, and then we deliver that solution. I don't think we can force the change upon anyone saying that you don't want to transport goods from A to B, but you need to because that's the technology, but then you don't have a product.
It's a wise approach. As you talk to your customers, obviously you're based in Sweden. I'm here in the United States. You look at lanes in both Sweden and the United States to start based on customer demand, or you're just going to focus primarily on one country to start?
We focus on both the US and Europe. And as mentioned, we're doing autonomous solution on a TRATON level for all brands. So even if the brands they are the ones who are setting the customer dialogue, they are owning the customers and give the input. We are then just enabling that ability into the brands to be able to talk to the customer in the right way. So the brands will always own the customer contract and the dialogue. We are a part of a modular system. You can choose a number of axles or what type of cockpit you want, or if you want a day cab or whatever, and you can decide if you want to have autonomous or a manual driven vehicle.
Smart. You're giving your customers choices. As the brands are going to control the customer relationship, and then let's factor in the Plus Scania TRATON relationship. How are those economics going to work between the brand managers, TRATON, and Plus?
We have a very good relationship with Plus, and as I said, we have the same view of how we enter into a customer relationship. And for us, it is important that the ones who deliver the end product have the customer relationship. And Scania, Navistar, and MAN, and Volkswagen Truck and Bus are the ones that have the customer relationship today and also responsible for the homologation. So when we add in solutions into the truck, the homologation lies by the brand and also the customer relationship by that. And then it is also easier for our customers to have one interface.
From a technological standpoint, is there one point of contact? Are you the individual that oversees the autonomous development for the variety of the brands, and you're making recommendations from a technical solution? Or how does that work from, let's call it, a relationship standpoint as your customers look to deploy autonomous solutions in very different use cases across the globe?
it's always complicated with big companies. We have teams at all brands. The good thing is that we work together, and those solutions, so we can secure that we create solution with the best knowledge, and we are then trying to steer that to value-based driven development into the TRATON modular system.
TRATON, Scania, you're clearly going all in autonomy. You have a thriving, very healthy, by the way, it's in public filings, your mining business. Now you're moving into on-road level 4 trucks. With Plus is well known for the level 2, if you want to call it level 2 plus system. Will you also work with Plus on their L2 systems as well as the L4 systems, or is it going to be just all pure focus on L4?
The partnership we have with Plus is for L4 solutions. And we have full focus on delivering that solution forward as well. So it's L4 partnership and moving forward, delivering that for US and Europe.
I mean, L4 is what, in my opinion, speaking to several of your customers over the years, that's what they want. They want an L4 solution purely from an economic standpoint. Let's go back in the time machine here for a moment. When did Scania first start thinking about autonomous trucking? Was it Skunk Works Lab? Was it a whiteboarding session? Hi, I think we can improve our bottom line with this technology. When did you start thinking about autonomous?
That is a very good question, and I'm probably not the best one to answer that. I was not at Scania when that discussion started, but in general, Scania has a very strategic view of development, and with autonomy, that's not a difference. So it is rather of a journey of taking a early on ADAS technology or other solutions that have grown into the ability to drive autonomous. But of course, it was a long time the first thought of autonomous solutions were taken at Scania. So then it was just scaled up in different levels. So again, it's hard to answer, but everything we do is out of a strategic approach and long term.
I know you weren't there, but I'm curious if you've had dialogue with some of your peers or colleagues that might have been there. What was the motivation behind that initial first step? And is that motivation still there today?
The motivation, I would say, it is, again, focused on the long game and the strategic approach towards our customers. We are focused on delivering benefit for the operations of our customers, and that need to be a long game. It can't be changing overnight. You need to have a polar star to aim against, and I think that is the cornerstone of Customer-Centric, to be able to think of a strategic position but then use the current technology in the best way and take it step by step and scale by that.
How are your customers thinking about autonomy today?
I think we can listen to your pod from earlier episodes to get an answer on that one. But in my mind, I would say if we start off in the mining industry, this is a big change. Doing autonomous drive that we do with our type of vehicles together with our customer and partner Rio Tinto has been a game changer. And as they state, and they're focusing on low impact mining for the reason of safety and environment and so on, and efficiency. They are very positive, and we also see when we talk with other customers that this is a big step in the right direction. So they see it as a very positive development, and looking forward when we're scaling that even further. When it comes to our on-road customers or hub-to-hub customers, it is seen as positive. I think that US is ahead of Europe of obvious reasons. I believe that we are more mature in US of how we can adapt autonomy into those solutions, and also how we can benefit the drivers that we have today. We have a driver shortage, but still we can't believe that the autonomous drive is replacing the drivers. It's rather of creating a solution that gives the ability to fill out the need of transport, but also taking some drives that might be hard to fill with drivers and person drivers. So I think it's positive out of those customer base as well. even if it is a little bit further ahead in time when it comes to hub rather than mining, which is actually happening very, very close in time.
You mentioned your customer, Rio Tinto. What type of efficiencies are they unlocking when they're putting autonomy solutions into their mining operations?
As I mentioned, they are focused on low-impact mining to be able to use or dig out the things that they need, but keep as little impact of the ground as possible. With our smaller machines, comparison to the big yellow machines, you can do so. You can do it in a more efficient way. You can actually take, for example, iron ore in more concrete way and take waste when you take waste. So for them, it is a matter of optimizing solutions for the mining to reduce the burden on the impact.
We look at reducing the burden. Let's go back to on-road here for a minute. Do you see your customers looking to augment where a lot of drivers do not want to do the 6-hour, the 8-hour, the very long drives, the cross-country, the tandem drives, the Covenant's very famous for? Do you see your customers initially looking to use your autonomous technology for the longer routes versus the shorter routes, just because the drivers prefer the shorter routes versus the longer routes from a quality of life standpoint?
Yeah, I definitely see the longer routes for those solutions. And I think it will take time, a very long time, until it actually affects the shorter routes or even deliveries that are more in the city centers and so on. So it is long haulage routes that is hard to find people that want to drive, and also that makes more sense in a solution efficiency way.
You're based in the European Union. When, in your opinion, do we get to a point where an autonomous truck can go across EU borders with staying in the EU?
That is a podcast I would like to listen when you have that discussion with the European legislators. I mean, Europe are behind the US legislation in that sense, how you are able to drive and so on. But there are countries that are taking massive leaps. But your question is superb, because for me, it doesn't matter if you have a solution in one country, because goods in Europe transports across borders. So it is not a legislative perspective from that countryside. We need to look into how do you do that in the right way between the European countries in the European Union. So that is rather the question that needs to be solved than the individual country.
We do have individuals that listen from the EU Parliament. So if there are individuals listening to this episode from the EU Parliament, we welcome you on to discuss it. It's very, in my opinion, very key for the future of the EU economy to allow autonomous trucks to go over country borders while staying in the EU. Perhaps at some point there's an EU-wide regulation that allows these trucks to go, commerce to go. We have a driver shortage. There is an economic potential downturn, and this technology will spur the economy, not slow down the economy. Peter, how do you see the rollout of autonomous trucks? Obviously, we mentioned the regulatory environment, but how do you see the rollout changing and being different from the United States to Europe? Obviously, the United States is tending to move a little bit quicker, not to say from a regulatory standpoint at the federal level, but at a state level compared to the EU. Do we get it to a point where Texas is very popular here in the United States to operate autonomous trucks, and then you have Sweden where you're currently operating and testing? Do you see those as the big markets, and how do you see them really differentiating as you go to commercialization?
I think Europe is interesting in that sense, but the big markets is, of course, Germany and the Central European countries. If you look at the volumes, Sweden is a very important country for us, and so are all the European countries. But if you look at the amount of vehicles driven, of course, the Central European countries, and one of them is Germany, is essential to be able to make this happen in Europe. And fortunately, Germany is moving quite good in the legislation, but we need to, as I said, we need to push that on a European level to be able to transform between borders. And that's the difference, as you know, here in Europe, that we need to cross borders, and we need to be, and that's also technology hinder. How do we secure that we can cross borders in the right way, following the legislations that we have between borders?
You bring up the issue of border checks. A lot of companies working in the United States, Texas, are working on inland border checks. Is that an issue that you've started to look at as you go from Germany into another EU country, you go from France into another EU country. Is border checks being developed into this technology, since there are certain countries that still do have border checks in the EU?
We need to understand all subsystems, or systems, not subsystems, rather systems around the autonomy, because if we, for some trips, are doing those autonomous, we need to do the work that the driver is doing. So how do we solve that in a technical approach, not just by crossing borders, but also how do you communicate to the vehicle? How do you secure that the vehicle are operating at all times, the system's up and running at all times, and communicate to the customer's transport management system, etc., etc. So there are so many interfaces that you need to handle, not just because we often talk about, when we talk about autonomy, we talk about the stack on board, but that's just in brackets a solution into the complete picture of autonomy. We need to have a lot of other systems connected to the stack on board.
You're right. It reminds me of the early days. Let's go back, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s, with cell phone roaming, where you were in Italy, then you went to France, then you went to Sweden. You had to get the SIM cards in each country you went to because the costs were astronomical. Good news, we solved that problem. And the same thing can happen for autonomy. We can solve if you want to call it the autonomy roaming, we can solve those issues. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time for those to be solved. And I can't wait to see what you and the team at Scania and the team at TRATON do to solve these issues, to allow autonomous trucks to go cross-border in the EU. And when you solve that, Peter, we'd love to have you back on, perhaps with a member of the EU Parliament, to talk about how you did it hand in hand, because it's good for the European economy. Peter, for today, as we look to wrap up, what would you like our listeners and viewers to take away with them today?
Oh, I like your comparison to the cellular phone. So let's do that, and love to be back on the pod. But wrapping up, we've been talking about partnerships, and I see that essential for success. But I think even more important is culture, and how we work as a team within our company, but also how we work with others and share the same values. It's easy to forget about culture and values when you talk about technology, because it's essential that technology works, but it's actually people that are developing everything behind, and then you need to share the same values.
Partnerships, culture, values are the key to scaling not just autonomous trucks, but autonomy in general. The future is bright, the future is autonomous, the future is Scania. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the road to autonomy today.
Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed listening, please kindly rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Want to get in touch? Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Road to Autonomy, or email podcast@roadtoautonomy.com. The Road to Autonomy podcast is produced by the Road to Autonomy LLC. The views and opinions expressed on the Road to Autonomy podcast do not necessarily reflect those views of the Road to Autonomy, its subsidiaries, its shareholders, directors, investors, or partners. The content discussed on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be taken as legal, investment, tax, or business advice. Nothing is a recommendation that you purchase, sell, or hold any security or other investment, or that you pursue any investment style or strategy. The content of this podcast is presented on an as-is basis with no warranties, express or implied, of any kind. Financial mentions about companies in the Road to Autonomy Index and discussions about the Road to Autonomy Indexes are for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon when making any investment decision. Furthermore, an inclusion of security within the Road to Autonomy Index is not a recommendation by the Road to Autonomy Indices LLC to buy, sell, or hold that such security, nor is it considered to be investment advice.